What if the smartest person you've ever met wasn't the loudest, most confident, or even the most noticeable person in the room? For decades, psychologists have studied exceptional intelligence and discovered something unexpected. High IQ often looks nothing like popular stereotypes. Instead of showing off brilliance, many exceptionally intelligent people display behaviors that others mistake for shyness, overthinking, or emotional distance. Their greatest differences aren't always visible. They quietly shape how these individuals think, feel, learn, and experience everyday life. No single habit can reveal whether someone has an extremely high IQ, but certain psychological patterns appear surprisingly often across research. These patterns don't make anyone better than others. They simply reflect a different way of processing information, emotions, and the world itself. Some of these traits may remind you of someone you've known for years. Others may unexpectedly describe your own inner experiences. Let's begin with one characteristic that's probably misunderstood more than any other. Trait 1. They don't fear being alone. Many people see spending long periods alone as loneliness. Highly intelligent people often experience something completely different. For them, solitude isn't an escape from people. It's an opportunity for uninterrupted thinking, reflection, creativity, and mental recovery. When external distractions disappear, their minds naturally begin connecting ideas, revisiting experiences, and exploring questions that others rarely consider. A quiet evening alone may feel mentally richer than hours spent in conversations that never move beyond everyday topics. Even enjoyable social gatherings can become surprisingly exhausting because they're constantly processing conversations, emotions, expressions, and subtle social dynamics. Research suggests quiet environments often support deep concentration, allowing complex thinking without the cognitive demands of continuous social interaction. For exceptionally intelligent minds, solitude isn't emptiness. It's often where their clearest thinking, strongest creativity, and deepest insights naturally emerge. Trait 2. Their minds rarely stop thinking. But solitude isn't what makes these minds extraordinary. What happens during that quiet time is where psychology becomes truly fascinating. For many people with exceptionally high IQs, thinking isn't something they switch on. It's a process that continues almost constantly. A simple observation can spark an endless chain of ideas, connecting completely unrelated topics in ways most people never consider. A falling leaf might lead to thoughts about changing seasons, evolution, time, human behavior, or the fragile nature of life itself. To someone nearby, it's just another ordinary moment. To their mind, it's the beginning of an entirely new exploration. Researchers have found that highly intelligent people often display an intense curiosity, constantly searching for patterns, explanations, and deeper meaning. Instead of accepting information at face value, they naturally ask what caused it, what connects to it, and what could happen next. That curiosity often helps them solve difficult problems because their minds instinctively explore possibilities others never think to examine. However, this remarkable strength also comes with a challenge that many people around them rarely notice or fully understand. When the day ends, their thoughts don't always end with it. Conversations, ideas, and unanswered questions continue running in the background. They may replay a discussion, analyze a decision, or imagine different outcomes long after everyone else has already forgotten it. This isn't necessarily anxiety. It's often the natural consequence of a mind designed to keep exploring instead of settling quickly. While this constant thinking fuels creativity and innovation, it can also make genuine relaxation surprisingly difficult to achieve. Ironically, the same mind capable of extraordinary insight can also become exhausted by its own endless curiosity. And that constant awareness doesn't only shape their thoughts, it also changes the way they experience emotions, often more deeply than people expect. Trait 3. They feel more than they let others see. Many people assume exceptionally intelligent individuals rely on logic alone, leaving little room for deep emotions. Psychology often suggests otherwise. Some highly intelligent people experience emotions with remarkable intensity because they naturally notice details and meanings others unintentionally overlook every day. A casual comment, thoughtful compliment or moment of rejection may stay with them long after everyone else has already forgotten it. They're not simply remembering the event. Their minds continue exploring its meaning, intention, context, and emotional impact from different perspectives. They don't just hear words, they notice pauses, facial expressions, shifting tones, and the emotions hidden between sentences. Because they absorb so much information simultaneously, ordinary experiences can carry emotional significance that others never consciously recognize. A moving piece of music, an inspiring painting, or witnessing unexpected kindness can leave a lasting emotional impression for days. Likewise, seeing unfairness, dishonesty, or unnecessary suffering may affect them deeply, even when they have no personal involvement whatsoever. Yet despite these powerful emotions, many don't react immediately. Their first instinct is usually understanding exactly what they're feeling before expressing it. Instead of responding impulsively, they quietly organize both their thoughts and emotions, searching for clarity before saying anything aloud. To people around them, this calmness may appear emotionally distant, detached, or even surprisingly cold under difficult circumstances. In reality, an intense emotional dialogue may already be unfolding beneath the surface, completely invisible to everyone watching from the outside. This hidden emotional depth explains why exceptionally intelligent people are often misunderstood by friends, colleagues, and sometimes even their own families. What looks like emotional control is sometimes the result of feeling so much that careful reflection becomes the only comfortable response. Interestingly, this awareness of emotional complexity often leads to another unexpected characteristic: remarkable intellectual humility, instead of absolute certainty. Trait 4. They aren't afraid to say, "I don't know." Confidence is often mistaken for intelligence, but psychology suggests genuine intelligence is frequently accompanied by a surprising amount of intellectual humility. The more someone truly understands a subject, the more clearly they recognize its unanswered questions, hidden complexities, and uncertain boundaries. Instead of pretending to know everything, exceptionally intelligent people often admit when their knowledge has reached its current limit. To them, saying, "I don't know," isn't embarrassing. It's an honest starting point for discovering something they don't yet understand. This mindset keeps curiosity alive because every unanswered question becomes an opportunity rather than a threat to their self-image. When convincing evidence appears, they're usually willing to rethink opinions they've held for years instead of defending them blindly. Changing their minds doesn't feel like losing an argument. It feels like improving their understanding of how reality actually works. They rarely become emotionally attached to being right, because accuracy matters far more than protecting their personal pride. This openness often surprises people who mistake certainty for expertise and hesitation for weakness or lack of confidence. Ironically, those who sound absolutely certain sometimes know the least, while thoughtful uncertainty often reflects deeper understanding. Exceptionally intelligent people usually recognize that every answer leads to new questions waiting patiently beneath the surface. Rather than collecting opinions, they collect evidence, constantly refining their understanding as fresh information becomes available. That willingness to keep learning allows their thinking to remain flexible instead of becoming trapped by outdated assumptions. For them, intelligence isn't measured by always having answers. It's measured by asking better questions than they asked yesterday. That same curiosity also shapes their relationships, making meaningful conversations far more valuable than simply filling moments with words. Trait 5. They crave conversations that go beyond the surface. For many exceptionally intelligent people, the greatest challenge isn't learning new ideas. It's finding people who genuinely enjoy exploring them. They aren't searching for people who always agree with them. They're searching for conversations that challenge their thinking and expand it. While casual small talk has its place, it rarely satisfies minds naturally drawn toward deeper questions and meaningful discussions. A simple topic can quickly evolve into questions about psychology, history, philosophy, science, or the hidden motives behind human behavior. They often become fascinated not only by what people believe, but by why those beliefs exist in the first place. Because their thoughts naturally move several layers deeper, everyday conversations sometimes end just as they become intellectually interesting. Over time, many learn to simplify their ideas, realizing not everyone enjoys exploring complex possibilities for extended periods. This quiet habit can make them seem reserved when they're actually filtering countless thoughts before choosing what to share. Some stop explaining their reasoning altogether because previous experiences taught them that being misunderstood can become emotionally exhausting. As a result, people around them may know only a fraction of the ideas constantly moving through their minds. Then something remarkable happens when they finally meet someone equally curious and genuinely open to exploring difficult questions. Hours pass unnoticed because each answer naturally creates another question, and neither person feels the need to simplify their thinking. Those conversations don't drain them. Instead, they leave feeling energized, inspired, and deeply understood in a way that's surprisingly rare. For exceptionally intelligent people, genuine intellectual connection often becomes just as important as emotional connection in close relationships. And when a mind is constantly searching for understanding, it naturally becomes more willing to change with new evidence instead of resisting it. Trait 6. They change their minds. When the evidence changes, many people treat opinions like permanent identities, defending them at all costs. Exceptionally intelligent minds often take a different approach. Instead of asking, "How can I prove I'm right?" they quietly ask, "What evidence might prove I'm wrong?" That single question keeps their thinking flexible, allowing new discoveries to replace old assumptions without feeling like personal defeat. To them, beliefs aren't trophies to protect. They're working theories that should evolve whenever stronger evidence becomes available. This mindset allows them to learn continuously instead of becoming trapped by opinions formed years earlier under different circumstances. Changing their perspective doesn't weaken their intelligence. It demonstrates confidence strong enough to place truth above personal pride. People sometimes mistake this flexibility for inconsistency, especially when they see someone revising conclusions after learning something new. But psychology suggests cognitive flexibility is closely linked with effective problem-solving, creativity, and adapting successfully to unfamiliar situations. Rather than rejecting uncomfortable information, they examine it carefully, looking for patterns that might improve their understanding of reality. They're comfortable living with uncertainty while gathering enough evidence before reaching conclusions, instead of rushing towards simple answers. That patience often helps them avoid mistakes caused by overconfidence, assumptions, or emotional reactions made in the heat of the moment. Their goal isn't to win debates or protect their reputation. It's to understand the world a little more accurately each day. Every new piece of evidence becomes another opportunity to refine the mental map they've spent years carefully building. For exceptionally intelligent people, learning isn't measured by how much they already know, but by how willing they remain to grow. That openness naturally shapes another fascinating trait. They often notice far more than they choose to say aloud. Trait 7. They observe more than they speak. The quietest person in the room isn't always the least engaged. Sometimes they're simply noticing what everyone else overlooks. Before offering an opinion, exceptionally intelligent people often spend more time observing than speaking, collecting information others miss completely. They notice subtle facial expressions, changing tone, hesitant pauses, shifting body language, and emotions that rarely appear in spoken words. While others focus on what's being said, they naturally pay attention to what's being avoided, hidden, or left completely unsaid. This habit allows them to recognize patterns in people, relationships, and situations long before those patterns become obvious to everyone else. Instead of rushing to respond, they quietly compare new information with past experiences, searching for consistency, contradictions, and deeper meaning. Because they're processing so many details simultaneously, they often pause longer before speaking, carefully choosing words that accurately express their thoughts. Some mistake those pauses for uncertainty, when they're actually signs of careful thinking rather than impulsive reaction. When they finally contribute, their observations frequently surprise others because they've connected details nobody realized were related. This ability isn't about reading minds. It's about recognizing patterns, emotional cues, and behaviors that many people unintentionally overlook. Listening becomes more than hearing words. It becomes understanding intentions, motivations, and the emotional currents flowing beneath every interaction. That deeper awareness often helps them make thoughtful decisions instead of reacting to first impressions or incomplete information. Although this constant observation is incredibly valuable, it also places a heavy demand on their mental energy throughout the day. Their minds are rarely passive. Even during ordinary conversations, they're continuously analyzing, comparing, and making sense of countless subtle details. And that relentless mental activity helps explain why even brilliant minds sometimes struggle with a challenge many people never expect: procrastination. Trait 8. They often procrastinate on what matters. Most people often assume highly intelligent individuals complete important work effortlessly, yet many struggle most with projects that truly matter to them. Interestingly, they rarely procrastinate because they don't care. More often, they procrastinate because they care far more than most people realize. Before taking the first step, their minds imagine countless possibilities, improvements, challenges, and outcomes, making even simple beginnings feel overwhelming. While others see a blank page, they already see the finished result, along with every flaw it could possibly contain. That enormous gap between imagination and reality can create hesitation, even when they possess all the skills needed to succeed. Psychologists have observed that gifted individuals sometimes set exceptionally high standards, making imperfect beginnings feel surprisingly uncomfortable. Rather than risk producing something that falls short of their vision, they may delay starting until everything feels perfectly prepared. Unfortunately, that perfect moment rarely arrives, leaving meaningful goals waiting while smaller, less important tasks continue getting completed. From the outside, this behavior may look like laziness. Internally, it's often the pressure of seeing every possible improvement before beginning. Many eventually discover that excellence isn't created by perfect starts. It's built through consistent progress, revision, and learning from imperfect attempts. Once they finally begin, their focus often becomes extraordinary because the mental barriers gradually disappear through steady action. The hardest part was never completing the journey. It was convincing themselves to take the very first imperfect step. That experience teaches an important lesson. Remarkable ideas have little value unless they're transformed into real actions. And once their curiosity finds a new challenge, another fascinating pattern often begins to appear in their behavior. Trait 9. They get bored faster than most people. Once they fully understand something, repeating the same routine often becomes mentally unstimulating, no matter how successful or rewarding it appears. It's not because they lack discipline. Their minds simply crave new challenges, unfamiliar ideas, and problems that demand deeper thinking. Research suggests highly intelligent people often possess exceptionally strong curiosity, motivating them to keep exploring beyond what they already know. That's why many develop interests across completely different fields, moving naturally between science, psychology, art, history, technology, or philosophy. To others, these changing interests may seem inconsistent. To them, they're simply different paths leading toward a better understanding of the world. They rarely stop learning after mastering one subject because every answer naturally reveals another fascinating question waiting to be explored. Routine can become frustrating when there's nothing new to discover, solve, improve, or understand beyond the familiar patterns. This constant search for novelty isn't about chasing excitement. It's about keeping a naturally curious mind intellectually engaged and growing. Without meaningful challenges, even talented individuals may lose motivation despite having every ability needed to succeed. That's why many exceptionally intelligent people seek careers, hobbies, or projects offering continuous learning instead of predictable repetition. Their minds don't reject stability. They simply thrive when curiosity has room to explore something genuinely unfamiliar. Learning becomes more than acquiring knowledge. It becomes one of the primary ways they experience purpose and fulfillment. Yet despite this endless curiosity, many still struggle with a surprising companion that rarely leaves their side. The more they understand about the world, the more aware they become of everything they still don't know. And that awareness often leads to one final psychological trait that quietly shapes almost every aspect of their lives. Trait 10. They question themselves more than anyone expects. People often assume exceptionally intelligent individuals are naturally confident. Surprisingly, many spend far more time questioning themselves than others ever realize. The deeper their understanding becomes, the easier it is to recognize unanswered questions, hidden variables, and possibilities they may have overlooked. Instead of asking whether they're smart enough, they often wonder whether they've considered every angle before reaching a conclusion. Even after achieving success, many quietly replay decisions, searching for mistakes or imagining how the outcome could have been even better. This isn't simply insecurity. It's often the natural consequence of understanding just how complex the world really is. Their greatest competition usually isn't another person. It's the higher standard they continuously set for themselves, pushing constant improvement. Although this mindset encourages lifelong growth, it can also make satisfaction temporary because each achievement quickly becomes another starting point. Trait 11. They often feel like they see the world differently. Perhaps the most personal experience many exceptionally intelligent people describe is a quiet feeling of never completely fitting into their surroundings. They don't necessarily feel superior or isolated. They simply notice, question, and interpret everyday experiences differently from many people around them. Conversations may feel too shallow, routines may seem strangely repetitive, and questions others ignore can occupy their thoughts for years. When they finally meet people who appreciate curiosity, honesty, and thoughtful discussion, they often experience an immediate sense of belonging. Taken together, these psychological traits reveal that exceptional intelligence is about far more than memory, knowledge, or solving difficult problems. It shapes how people think, process emotions, build relationships, respond to uncertainty, and experience the ordinary moments of everyday life. Of course, no single trait can determine someone's IQ, and many people recognize these behaviors regardless of intelligence level. Together, however, they illustrate patterns psychologists have often observed among exceptionally intelligent individuals. Which of these traits felt most familiar to you? Share your thoughts below, and let's continue exploring the fascinating psychology behind the human mind together.
Stop chasing motivation. Start understanding your mind. Subscribe to Inner Violet and learn how to think, not just react.